It is my 42nd birthday, though tonight it feels more like the loneliest milestone I could imagine. I arrive at the Midtown restaurant just after 7, clutching an umbrella over my head as rain drips from the brim. Inside, soft jazz hums under hushed conversation, and the hostess greets me with a polite nod. I remind her of the reservation under my name, Smith, and she leads me past tables adorned with flickering candles to the one I chose weeks ago at my family's behest. 3 place settings lie ready. My wife Cassandra's, my son Tyler's, my daughter Grace's. I slide into the chair at the head of the table, feeling the backrest press against my shoulders like an unwelcome reminder of expectation. At first, I watch raindrops race each other down the window pane, tiny competitors sliding in arcs that remind me of the swift passing of years. 42 feels less like an accomplishment and more like an accusation. You've been here before, haven't you? I glance at my watch. 7:30. My stomach tightens. Cassandra had insisted on picking this restaurant. She said it was charming and different, purple walls and lanterns framing the rain with warmth. Yet the only warmth I sense right now is the small pool of candlelight shimmering on the tablecloth. The waiter arrives with a thermos of dark roast coffee, sets it down gently, and asks if I'd like a refill later. I nod, fingers wrapped around the porcelain mug's curve, feeling its heat ease a knot in my chest. I sip, bitter and smoky, and let the taste anchor me. I remember last year's birthday, the family at home, laughter echoing off the kitchen walls, the maple syrup, soaked pancakes I burned half of in my morning haze. Tonight, their surprise gift might have been something sweet in the fridge or a collage of photographs on the living room wall. Instead, I stare at 3 empty settings, each one mocking me with potential that never arrived. I order a small appetizer, a delicate mushroom consommé crowned with a swirl of cream. It arrives in a shallow bowl, steam curling upward like ghosts of meals past. I lift the spoon and pause. Every flavor tastes too deliberate, too ceremonious for an evening spent alone pretending to celebrate. I recall turning 16 at my parents' house, my mother's smile as she unfurled paper banners across the ceiling. Now those hallmarks of celebration feel hollow. The banners unwritten, the cakes unbaked, the songs unsung. The clock on the far wall ticks past 8. The restaurant's warmth contrasts with the chill settling in my bones. I order another coffee. The waiter, overqualified for such a simple task, pours with precise care, sets the pot back on its saucer, and retreats with a quiet professionalism. I'm grateful for his discretion. I catch his eye once and muster a small, grateful nod. He responds with a soft smile, as if to say, I see you. And I realize this stranger's kindness is the first comfort I've felt this evening. I reach for my phone to check messages. None from Cassandra, none from the kids. Only the glow of my own reflection in the dark screen. I consider calling, asking if everything's okay, but pride and embarrassment tether my fingers. Instead, I tuck the phone beside my plate and fold my hands in my lap, closing my eyes for a moment to steady my breath. In the silence I hear the rain against the window, the low hum of a distant conversation, and the steady thrum of my own heartbeat reminding me I'm still here. At 8:30, I unwrap a linen napkin and place it on my lap. 7 o'clock was the agreed time. They're officially late. I trace the outline of each empty plate with my eyes, imagining their faces blinking into view. Cassandra's warm smile, Tyler's self-conscious shrug, Grace's eager eyes. But the chairs remain bare. My coffee grows cold. I lift the napkin, fold it again, and set it on the table beside my spoon. I tell myself I will not be the man who complains about a family joke gone too far. Instead, I lean back, draw in a slow breath, and order another cup. If they truly mean to surprise me, I decide this is the only way to keep hope alive, to wait. And so I wait, 42 years old, alone, with rain at my window and 3 empty settings before me, learning perhaps that sometimes the most revealing gift is the one that never comes. I glance at the time again, 9:02 p.m., and press the side of my phone to make sure the screen isn't lying. It isn't. I've been sitting at this table for just over 2 hours. The same table Cassandra picked out when she called this place last week and said, make sure it's quiet, with a window. He likes to watch the rain. And here I am, doing exactly that. Watching the rain. Watching it trickle and slide down the pane like it's got somewhere more important to be than I do. The soft amber light from the wall sconces reflects on the glass like blurred halos, flickering and mocking. 3 chairs still untouched. Forks still clean. Lila, the hostess with a tidy bun and a notebook clutched to her chest, drifts past again. This time she slows as she sees me still sitting there. Her eyes, kind but tired, sweep the table and then me. I checked again, she says, her voice gentle like she's trying not to spook me. Your wife, or someone, I assume family, called around 6:15. They didn't leave a message, but it's in our log. Just a missed call. Right? I say, trying not to sound too empty. No message. She shakes her head, giving me a smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. I can check again if you like. I shake my head slowly. No. Thanks, Lila. She walks away, and I watch her vanish behind the wine rack. The air in the dining room has changed. Earlier it was buzzing with the soft clamor of laughter and glass. Now, it's mellowed to a hum, like the room itself is winding down. I take another sip of my coffee, which has gone lukewarm and bitter. My spoon clinks against the porcelain cup as I set it back on the saucer. I toy with the idea of texting Cassandra, but my fingers hesitate. What would I even say? Hey, just confirming I haven't been abandoned? I glance at the menu again, though I've read every word on it by now twice. I scan over the descriptions of items I won't order. The sea bass with fennel foam. The butternut squash risotto. The $12 side of truffle fries that Grace would have ordered just for the name. Instead, I flag down a server and ask for the starter soup, the autumn harvest bisque. It arrives in a deep, navy ceramic bowl that looks hand-glazed. A thin swirl of cream dances on top, garnished with roasted pumpkin seeds. It's beautiful. I take one spoonful. It's far too salty. Or maybe I'm just too bitter. I look at the spoon in my hand like it might give me some kind of answer. Then I laugh, softly. A single breath of disbelief. I let the spoon drop gently back into the bowl and sit back in my chair. This is the part where a man is supposed to get angry. Maybe walk out. Slam a credit card on the table and storm off into the night, righteous and wounded. But I don't feel anger. I feel something quieter. Something closer to surrender. Maybe this is the surprise. A half-baked prank to teach me a lesson about how much I work. How many birthdays I've missed. School plays I promised I'd make and didn't. Dinners I was 5 minutes away from, then never showed up for. Maybe tonight is Cassandra's version of now you know how it feels. If it is, she's right. I do know now. It feels hollow. Cold. Like sitting at a table built for four while your family disappears into a silence you can't read. I take out my phone again. Still nothing. I type a message to Cassandra. Still here at the restaurant. Are you okay? Then I delete it. Because she is okay. She's always okay. She's just not here. The waiter walks past with a tray of desserts for another table, a family of 5 sharing molten chocolate cake and laughing so loud it pulls my head toward them. The father leans in and smears a bit of whipped cream on his youngest daughter's nose. She shrieks with laughter. The mother rolls her eyes and dabs it away with a napkin. That was us. Once. I check the time again. 9:27. The dining room is half empty now, the tables around me being wiped down, candles gently snuffed. But my candle still burns, a small, lonely flame flickering against the draft from the window. And I am still waiting. I flag the waiter again and order sparkling water, no lime. Just bubbles to keep me tethered to the evening. He brings it quickly, offers me a look that hovers between concern and pity. I give him a small smile to let him off the hook. It's not his fault I'm here pretending not to be stood up. Lila circles around again and pauses. Would you like me to pack up the rest of the place settings? She asks gently. I look at the 3 unused sets and something in me flinches. No, I say. Leave them. Please. She nods once, then vanishes into the back again. I sit in silence, sipping sparkling water. The carbonation pricks at my throat like tiny pins. The soup sits untouched in front of me, cold now. Like the rest of the night. And still I wait. Because part of me hopes they'll walk in laughing, saying traffic was hell, or Grace forgot something at home, or Tyler needed to change because his shirt had a stain. Part of me still wants the surprise to be real. But another part, the part of me I've ignored for years, knows that tonight, the only gift I've been given is clarity. I'm not angry. I'm not even surprised. I'm just here, waiting, alone. The restaurant has grown quiet in a way that makes every sound feel louder than it is, the hush of tablecloths being smoothed, the dull clatter of silverware being reset, the distant rumble of plates in the kitchen. It's nearly 10 now. I check my phone again. Nothing. No message. No missed call. No excuse. Just silence. I close the screen and set it face down beside the water glass that still sits untouched. I haven't moved the other 3 glasses. Their perfect symmetry mocks me. Still no Cassandra. Still no Tyler. Still no Grace. I wave down the waiter. His name is Elijah, I think, and finally order an entree. There's no more pretending they're coming. No more excuses I can invent for them. Maybe they got caught in traffic. Maybe they meant tomorrow instead of today. Maybe. I'm tired of giving them more time than they ever offer me. I'll take the slow roast lamb, I say, folding the menu shut. More to close a chapter of waiting than from actual hunger. Excellent choice, Elijah says, scribbling on his pad before disappearing behind the swinging door to the kitchen. I lean back in my chair and glance toward the back of the restaurant. A boisterous group has gathered around a long corner table, laughing like they're in someone's living room instead of this quiet, curated space. One of them stands, lifts their phone, and shouts, "Okay, everyone, smile." A flash bursts across the room as they pose for a group photo, loud and unbothered. The kind of group that fills a space with the kind of presence you can't ignore. As if on cue, one of them backs away without looking and bumps my chair hard enough to jolt my elbow. I turn, but they don't. No apology, not even a glance. I sit forward, my hand still on the armrest, and let the moment pass. Invisible. That's what I am tonight. Not just at this table, but to them, to the staff, even to my own family, apparently. I pick up the coffee again, 3rd cup now, and take a sip. It's too bitter. I add sugar, stir, and sip again. It doesn't help. Nothing helps. Elijah returns, but not with lamb. Instead, he places a plate of sea bass before me, garnished with a swirl of beet puree and tiny roasted potatoes. I stare at it for a moment, confused, then look up. "I'm sorry," I say quietly. "This isn't what I ordered." He looks at the plate like it betrayed him. "Oh, you're right. That's the table 10 order. Sorry about that." He sighs, exhausted, and lifts the plate with one hand. "I'll fix it." He walks away quickly, disappearing into the kitchen again. I hear him mutter something to the chef as the door swings shut behind him. I'm not mad. Just tired. Tired of being overlooked. Tired of being the one people forget to double-check for. A simple birthday dinner, and even my order can't be right. I glance again at the 3 empty chairs, at the knives still aligned perfectly, at the untouched plates that feel more like mirrors than dinnerware. I see myself in them, clean, composed, and waiting for something that won't come. The group in the corner cheers again, now singing a loud, off-key version of Happy Birthday to one of their own. I watch as the staff brings out a tiny cake lit with sparklers, everyone around clapping and laughing. Even the kitchen door swings open to give the chef a look. I wonder what it would have been like if Cassandra had done that for me. Even something simple. A candle, a card, an effort. Elijah returns with a steaming plate of lamb, this time the correct order. He places it gently in front of me, apologizes again, and vanishes without another word. I stare at the food for a moment. It smells amazing. Herbs, garlic, wine reduction all blending into something that should have been special. I cut into the lamb slowly. The meat is tender, almost buttery. It falls apart on the fork like it's been waiting all night for this moment. I take a bite and chew. It's good. It's everything it should be. And yet, it lands on my tongue like a concession prize. I glance at the clock again. 10:15. I should have left hours ago. Should have walked out when the first hour passed, or at least after the soup. But I didn't, because some part of me kept hoping they'd show. That Cassandra would walk in, heels clicking and face flushed from the rain. That Tyler would grin and say something about a wrong turn. That Grace would run to hug me and slide into her chair, talking a mile a minute like she always does. But none of that happened. Instead, I'm sitting here eating lamb alone while a stranger's birthday party floods the room with joy. And I can't even be angry, not really. Just numb. What's worse is that I can't decide whether this was a forgotten dinner or an intentional message. A message like the ones I've been ignoring for months. The missed calls, the stifled arguments, the way Cassandra closes the bedroom door softly when she thinks I've fallen asleep. The sighs Tyler lets out when I ask about college. The empty chair at Grace's last game because I worked late. Maybe tonight is less about forgetting and more about giving up. I take another bite of lamb and chew slowly, methodically, as though it might give me answers. It doesn't. I finish half the plate before setting my fork down. Across from me, the seat Cassandra would have taken still sits neat, untouched. I glance toward the door one last time. Still nothing. The waiter comes by again and asks if I'd like dessert. I think about saying yes. Think about ordering the raspberry tart Cassandra used to love. But the thought of eating it alone, the cream filling my mouth while laughter echoes from another table, makes me feel hollow. No, thank you, I say quietly. He nods and takes the plate. I don't ask for the check right away. I just sit there for another few minutes, watching the last of the restaurant's guests gather their coats and shuffle out into the rainy night. Eventually, I stand and slide my wallet out of my jacket. The check arrives with a pin tucked into the folder. I sign the receipt, add a tip, and place the pin back down. 3 empty chairs, 3 uneaten meals, and one man who, for the first time in a long while, realizes just how alone he feels. Even surrounded by candlelight and polished silver, I button my coat, thank the staff, and step out into the rain. Just as I cut the first tender slice of lamb, the chair opposite me creaks under a sudden weight, and I look up to find a woman sliding into the seat with an air of purpose. Her dark jacket contrasts sharply against the restaurant's warm palette, and her curious smile holds a mixture of mischief and apology. My fork hovers midair. Keep eating, she whispers. Her brown eyes flick toward a round table where a bald man in a bright tie is waving emphatically, phone in hand, as though summoning her back to his side. Or I'll have to join my boss and pretend I'm thrilled by his holiday slideshow. I blink, unsure how to respond. The unexpected presence startles me, and the restaurant's soft lighting seems to dim momentarily around us as attention subtly shifts. Only the rain tapping the window beyond this impromptu guest's arrival reminds me that tonight has been full of surprises, some welcome, most not. I lower my fork back to my plate, watching the way her lips curve into a playful smirk. Please, she adds under her breath, 1 minute. Her voice is soft but urgent, as if our chairs share one secret and the rest of the room must remain oblivious. My pulse quickens at the intimacy of her intrusion and the silent solidarity in her eyes. She tucks a loose strand of hair behind her ear and offers me a conspiratorial grin. You look like a man who could use company, she says, voice smooth as the lamb just on my plate. A flicker of gratitude warms me even as confusion lingers. This stranger has rescued me from a birthday dinner that collapsed into disappointment. But what does she want in return? I'm Marcus, I say, startling myself by offering my name. It feels instinctive, drawn from some place deeper than nerves. Serena, she replies, holding out her hand briefly before retracting it. Her fingers hover over the tablecloth, as though fearful of touching the surface as much as the table's other inhabitants. The lamb's aroma mingles with the faint scent of her perfume, something earthy, with notes of cedar and citrus. It reminds me of a stroll through a winter forest at dusk. I swallow around a lump in my throat and lift my glass of sparkling water. To surprise dinners, I say, raising the glass slightly. She laughs, a soft, genuine sound that ripples between us and seems to lighten the space. To surprises, she echoes. Her eyes soften as she peers at me through the dim light. I saw you sitting here alone and realized I owe you a favor. I frown, uncertain. A favor? She nods. My boss is a generous man, but only with people he chose to be generous toward. I've been dodging his slideshow of vacation photos since 6 o'clock. She rolls her eyes toward the bald man at the round table, who glances over before tilting his head and shrugging as though to say, I'm waiting. I was going to be polite, but when I saw you, she shrugs, I decided to choose my own adventure. I lift an eyebrow. Your own adventure? And I'm it. Yeah, she says, flashing that curious smile again. Tell me your name, and I'll believe we're at least acquaintances by the end of this. I settle back and laugh softly. Well, Serena, I'm Marcus Klein, and I've spent the evening waiting for my family, who apparently decided it was my birthday, but I don't know why. Her expression shifts from playful to sympathetic. I'm sorry. She reaches across the table and slides a small card toward me, a simple, embossed RSVP to some company holiday party. Consider this your escape ticket. I stare at the card, then back at her. What she gestures to the card. Father Christmas fancy fish, and your lonely lamb seem like an unfair bargain. Take this, and go home to whatever you need to fix. And then, she leans forward, voice dropping to a whisper, next year, you planned your own surprise. I pick up the card, fingertips brushing hers as I do. A spark of something unexpected shoots through me, connection. It's been ages since anyone offered me anything outside routine politeness. Even Cassandra's surprise fell into a pattern, and tonight unraveled completely. But here in this flickering lantern light, with rain pattering against the glass, I feel as though a new possibility is unfolding. Serena glances at her watch. I should go, she murmurs, before I owe him an apology or he catches on that I'm missing. She stands, smoothing the front of her jacket. I rise with her, feeling more alive than I have all evening. I clear my throat. Thank you. For the company, the rescue, the favor. She smiles, that same curious curve of lips. Anytime, she says, then pauses. Oh, try the raspberry tart for dessert. It's on me. Best in the city. Before I can respond, she's turned and is striding away, back toward the round table where her boss lifts his eyebrows at her arrival. She offers him a smile unburdened by apology and slips into her seat as though this entire encounter were part of her plan. I watch her for a moment, then return to my chair. The three empty place settings feel different now, less like accusations and more like possibilities. I tuck the escape ticket into my wallet and pick up the fork once more. This time, the lamb tastes richer, spiced with something new. The knowledge that generosity can come from strangers, that surprise can emerge when you least expect it, and that sometimes the best gift is an unexpected ally. I finish the portion of lamb on my plate and summon the waiter. When he arrives, I order the raspberry tart Serena recommended. As I wait, I push the card across the table and imagine what it might mean to plan my own surprises in the year ahead, for the family I love and for myself. When the tart arrives, plump berries atop a crisp shell, a dollop of vanilla cream beside it. I take a bite. Sweet, tangy, and perfect. For the first time tonight, I smile at my reflection in the dark window, lantern light dancing behind me. Maybe this birthday gift wasn't the one I expected, but it was exactly the one I needed. And as I savor the dessert, I resolve that next year, when the rain taps at another lantern-lit window, I'll be the one writing the script for my own surprises. She stayed less than 10 minutes, long enough to rearrange the tone of my night, long enough to leave something behind that still sat heavy in my jacket pocket, the gold-trimmed invitation card. It wasn't just the gesture that stuck with me, but the ease in her presence. Serena. She said her name like it carried no weight, no baggage, just enough sound to linger in the air. She didn't ask for mine again, didn't press for details about the family who should have been here. She only raised a glass, offered a shared moment, and slipped back into her world like a well-practiced magician, leaving me seated at the same table but in a completely different mood. After she left, I didn't eat more of the lamb. Not out of bitterness. Just fullness, not the stomach kind, but the kind where you suddenly feel like you've absorbed too much of the day already. I'd come in tonight expecting a surprise, and in a way, I got one. It just didn't come wrapped in ribbon from Cassandra and the kids. It came in the form of a stranger with a rescue plan and a laugh that didn't feel rehearsed. I sat for another few minutes, listening to the quiet clink of cutlery from the last few diners still lingering over dessert. When the waiter passed, I asked him to bring 2 glasses of sparkling water with lime. He raised an eyebrow, clearly noting that I was still alone, but said nothing. A few minutes later, he returned, setting the glasses down gently as I offered a quiet, "Thank you." I pushed one glass across the table toward the empty seat Serena had claimed and lifted mine. My hand hesitated in the air before I said it out loud, not caring who heard. "To birthdays and laundromats," I said, my voice barely louder than the rain. And then I added, "and to strangers who notice invisible people." I raised my glass and clinked it gently against the untouched one across from me. The sound echoed more than I expected, ringing softly in the almost empty dining room. A strange toast, maybe, but it felt truer than any speech I'd ever given on my own birthdays before. I sipped and leaned back in my chair, letting the lime bite at my tongue. The bubbles pricked my lips and reminded me I was still here, still breathing, still learning. Serena had said she once spent her birthday in a laundromat, alone after a breakup, watching the machine spin while some kind stranger bought her coffee. Something about that hit harder than it should have. Not because I pitied her. No, it was the honesty in it. The way she didn't flinch while telling me. The way she made loneliness sound survivable, even oddly poetic. I didn't tell her I'd been feeling something similar for months, maybe longer. But if I had, I think she would have understood. The truth is, this wasn't just one missed dinner. It wasn't about tonight. Tonight was just the flashlight that showed what had already begun to rot. Cassandra and I used to be that couple who held hands under tables, who passed notes and folded napkins, who whispered plans for summer even when we were still paying off winter bills. Then somewhere between school drop-offs and overtime shifts, we stopped making each other smile. She stopped waiting up for me, and I stopped asking about her day. We didn't fight. We faded. And fading is a more dangerous thing, I think, because it happens so quietly you don't know it's done until the lights are already off. Tyler's 17 now. He used to greet me at the door with a football tucked under one arm, asking if we could throw it around before dinner. Now he barely looks up from his phone. Grace, 14, always wanted bedtime stories, even when she could read on her own. Now she retreats behind headphones and journals I'm not allowed to see. I can't blame them for growing. That's their job. But it stings that I missed the middle part, the golden in-between. It happened while I was busy being the provider, building the life I thought they wanted. I lift my glass again. The second toast is silent. Just me, eyes closed for a moment, breathing through regret. When the waiter comes by again and sees the 2 glasses of water, one half empty, the other untouched. He pauses. He looks at the extra chair, then back at me, and smiles as though we're sharing an inside joke. I return the smile, appreciating that he doesn't ask questions. Would you like dessert? He asks gently. I start to say no, but then I remember Serena's parting words. Try the raspberry tart on me. Best in the city. I nod. Actually, yes. The tart. He brings it out 10 minutes later, a delicate plate with a golden crust cradling glistening raspberries, a drizzle of fresh cream looping in soft curves around the edges. I take the first bite and immediately understand what she meant. Sweet. Sharp. Crumbly in the best way. It doesn't fix anything, but for a few minutes it helps. I let the tart slow me down. Bite after bite, I remember how rare it is to enjoy something without needing it to be anything more. This isn't an apology from Cassandra. It's not a peace offering from the kids. It's not even a symbolic closure. It's just a tart. And it's good. By the time I finish, the restaurant is almost empty. A few tables being cleared. Lila at the host stand, checking the final reservations. Rain still whispering outside. I place the folded receipt and tip on the table, then stand. I slide Serena's holiday party invitation into my wallet, next to a picture of Grace and Tyler from 2 summers ago, the one where they're laughing in the sand, unaware I'm taking the photo. I used to be the one catching moments like that. Maybe I still can be, if I stop waiting to be invited and start showing up. As I walk toward the door, I pass the round table Serena left earlier. Her boss is gone now. The seat she sat in is empty again, like the one across from mine. But I no longer feel like someone who's been left behind. I step into the drizzle without opening my umbrella, letting the rain soak into my sleeves. It's cold, but it's real. And tonight, that's enough. The raspberry tart arrived with ceremony, placed carefully before me like a small work of art. The golden crust was delicate, almost too pristine to touch. Plump berries nestled atop it, glistening under a glaze that caught the candlelight just right. A drizzle of cream curled around the plate, and one mint leaf sat like punctuation at the edge. I stared at it for a moment, then reached for my fork. Serena's voice echoed in my mind. Best in the city. I took the first bite cautiously. The crust broke apart with a soft crunch, and the tartness of the raspberries met the cool cream in a perfect contrast. She wasn't lying. It was the kind of dessert that didn't just taste good, it made you pause. Made you rethink every cheap store-bought cupcake you ever called a treat. It was the kind of dish that belonged to a memory. I sat back, chewing slowly, letting it unfold. Elijah, the waiter, glanced over as he passed. It's good, right? He asked with a knowing smirk. Better than it has any right to be, I said. He chuckled and moved on. The restaurant was nearly empty now. The group in the corner had left, their laughter replaced by soft instrumental music drifting from the speakers. A few waitstaff polished wine glasses behind the bar. Lila stood at the host podium, flipping through tomorrow's reservation book. And here I was, alone at a table for 4, finally, strangely, feeling okay. I pulled out my phone and stared at it. A few missed calls earlier in the day, but none tonight. Not from Cassandra. Not from Tyler or Grace. I wasn't sure which hurt more, being forgotten or being deliberately ignored. On impulse, I opened my email. My work inbox had its usual stack of notifications. Shipment delays. Route updates. Inventory corrections. Warehouse logistics didn't rest, not even on birthdays. But tonight, I didn't feel like being a manager or a planner or the guy who fixed everyone else's problems. So I closed the app and opened a blank message. I hesitated a second, then typed her name. Serena. I didn't know her last name, but I remembered the embossed logo on her holiday party invitation. With a few quick searches, I found the company and a staff directory. Landscape design. She really had meant it when she said she helped plant trees across the city. I clicked on the contact link beside her photo and composed a short message. Subject: Thank you. Hi, Serena. I just wanted to thank you for sitting with me tonight, for rescuing me, for the tart. You didn't have to do any of it, and yet you did. Strangers don't often do kind things with no strings attached. But tonight, you reminded me how powerful that can be. You mentioned birthdays and laundromats. This one started at a table with 3 empty chairs. But thanks to you, it didn't end that way. Marcus Klein. I read it over once, twice. Then hit send. I wasn't expecting a reply. Maybe she'd never see it. But it felt good to write something honest for once. Not an apology or an explanation or a rehearsed excuse. Just truth. I looked down at the tart again, now half finished. As I took another bite, the conversation Serena and I had earlier replayed in my mind. I told her about my job, warehouse logistics manager, 10 years in the same role, the guy who everyone called when something didn't show up on time. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept the lights on. Does it make you happy? She'd asked. I hadn't known how to answer. I told her about the nights I worked past midnight, about the emails that pinged even during dinner, about the time I missed Grace's school play because a shipment was delayed, and Tyler's science fair when the new barcode system crashed. She listened quietly, never interrupting. Then she said, I think people confuse building for providing. Providing is survival. Building is intentional. I remembered those words now as I cleaned the plate. Providing. Building. Had I ever actually built anything for my family, or had I just maintained it? Repaired it when it cracked? Patched it when it leaked? Was I their architect, or just their maintenance guy? I thought of Cassandra. In the early years, we had dreams. A travel list tacked to the fridge. Backyard sketches for the house we wanted. A folder of business plans she never opened again. And the kids, Tyler's crooked front teeth and the way he used to grip my hand at night when he had bad dreams. Grace's lopsided pigtails on her first day of school, and how proud she was when I taught her to ride a bike. Lately, I'd become a ghost that haunted the hallway between work and obligation. I wiped my mouth with the linen napkin and exhaled. Serena had reminded me what it felt like to be seen. Not for what I could do or provide, but simply for existing. The check arrived. I noticed the dessert was marked comped. I didn't ask. I signed, left a generous tip, and stood. Outside, the rain had softened to a mist, the streets slick and glowing with the shimmer of traffic lights. I didn't rush to my car. I just stood there under the awning, breathing in the night. The air was cool and sharp, grounding. I slid the invitation card out of my pocket and turned it over. One gold leaf corner had curled slightly. A small imperfection. Just like the evening. But even imperfections could bloom into something good. I tucked the card into my wallet, alongside an old photo of my kids, the last one where we were all laughing. I promised myself, right then, that I'd make time to build again. Not just fix. And I'd start with tomorrow. Maybe it would be breakfast with Grace. A real conversation with Tyler. Maybe it would be asking Cassandra how she really felt, even if I was scared of the answer. But tonight, I'd go home knowing something had shifted. And that was enough. As I walked into the misty night, full of raspberry and truth, I realized something. A stranger had given me more than dessert. She'd given me a new beginning. When the last of the dining room lights flicked off and the maitre d' offered his gentle goodnight, I realized I had lost track of time. The hush that replaced the evening's hum felt surreal, as though the restaurant had closed the curtains on a play I never meant to star in. I tucked Serena's invitation card into my wallet, sliding it beside the faded photo of Grace and Tyler laughing on the beach. I could almost feel their warmth there, so different from the cool mist drifting past the restaurant's awning. Stepping outside, the air struck me like a revelation, damp, fragrant, and alive with possibility. I leaned my umbrella against the rack by the door, deciding to walk the block to clear my head before heading home. The pavement glistened under a pale streetlight. Puddles mirrored neon signs that blinked like distant stars. I pulled my coat tighter, shoulders brushing against the slick lapels, and took a deep breath of autumn-scented air. Even the rain, now little more than a fine drizzle, seemed to promise a fresh start. The sidewalks were empty, save for a lone cab idling at a corner and a street sweeper humming down the block. I turned left, toward the theater district Serena had mentioned, where velvet curtains and marquee lights once drew crowds in droves. Now, the posters and dusty frames proclaimed shows long ended. I paused in front of one, the gold letters spelling a play about reinvention. I glanced down at my own reflection in the glass and thought how fitting it was. I hadn't planned this walk, but the night's surprises had taught me that the best moments aren't scheduled. I slipped my hands into my pockets and continued, picking up an easy rhythm that matched the city's quiet heartbeat. The drift of wet leaves underfoot reminded me of childhood rakes and pumpkin patches, times when my family, before life became a tangle of work and obligations, would pile into the old station wagon and drive out for hayrides. The memory felt tender, like a song I hadn't heard in years. A block later, I found the hidden garden Serena had described. It lay tucked behind a low stone wall, its wrought iron gate slightly ajar. Pathlights cast soft amber halos on damp benches and glistening foliage. The scent of magnolia and damp earth wrapped around me. I stepped inside, feeling as though I'd discovered a secret room in an old house, one that held memories and whispered invitations. I followed the winding path beneath a canopy of oaks and maples, their leaves dripping with raindrops that caught the light like crystals. A stone bench stood beside a small fountain, its water trickling in a muted lullaby. I sat, letting the dampness cling to my coat, and closed my eyes. For the first time all evening, I felt friction between past and present soften. The garden felt timeless, suspended between seasons, just like the questions stirring in my mind. Why had I let routine eclipse the small wonders of life? Why had work become the boss of my days, leaving family and myself on the back burner? Serena had freed me from a night of hurt, but tonight was meant to give me more than comfort. It was meant to expose the gaps I'd let grow. I ran a hand across the cool stone bench, recalling Serena's voice. Every place needs more trees. She'd sketched invisible leaves in the air as she spoke, as if planting ideas instead of saplings. She built beauty out of intention, and right then, I realized I needed to do the same with my own life. Plant moments of wonder, water them with presence, and watch them grow. Across the way, street lamps revealed a small group of chrysanthemums sheltered under a garden arbor. Their petals, heavy with rain, bowed in graceful arcs. I rose and walked toward them, kneeling on one knee to brush a damp leaf aside. They looked fragile yet unwavering, survivors of sudden storms and shifting seasons. Something in their resilience struck a chord. I pulled my phone from my pocket and snapped a photo of the blooms. It felt strange to capture something fleeting, but perhaps also vital. I composed a quick message to Grace. "Hey kiddo, look at these flowers I found. Want to press one and keep it?" I hesitated, then sent it. Within moments, her reply came, "Cool. Love you, Dad." My chest warmed. The space between us felt smaller, bridged by a single click and 2 words. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and wandered deeper into the garden, following a narrow path that sloped gently upward. At the top, I found a circular clearing circumscribed by low hedges. Standing in the center, I turned slowly, taking in the quiet beauty all around me. No voices but my own, no expectations but the soft insistence to be present. I unconsciously lifted my hand and traced the outline of Serena's invitation card in my coat pocket. I hadn't decided whether to go to that holiday party, but something whispered that connection, real connection, wouldn't find me behind a desk or in a vacant dining chair. It would come when I stepped into new spaces, shared stories, and noticed the invisible. A sudden rustle drew my attention to a bench beneath a tree. Its wooden slats were weathered, the paint chipped. I sat and inhaled the night's scent. Earth, wood, distant rain. The sound of my own heartbeat felt steady, a welcome metronome. I opened my coat and removed the invitation card, smoothing its edges between thumb and forefinger. The envelope had been embossed with her company's crest, a stylized leaf entwined with a compass rose. I imagined Serena designing parks that guided people through green havens, much like she'd guided me tonight. I tucked the card back and closed my eyes. I let the night breathe around me. The soft patter of droplets, the gentle hum of a city that never truly sleeps, and the distant echo of a siren. The world's reminder that life moves on, indifferent to the small dramas of one man's birthday. For a long moment, I simply sat, neither rushing forward nor clinging to the past. In that delicate balance, I felt a quiet resolve take root. Tomorrow, I would be the one to plan the surprises. Tomorrow, I would close the gaps. Drive times with Tyler, bedtime stories with Grace, and a conversation with Cassandra that wasn't excuses and half-truths. I would ask her about her dreams again, and listen, fully present, without the shield of work. When I finally rose and retraced my steps back through the garden gate, the drizzle had faded into mist. The street beyond was still glistening, the city lights alive. I picked up my umbrella, shook off droplets like an old dog returning to warmth, and headed toward home. Each footstep felt lighter than before. The empty chairs at dinner no longer weighed me down, they simply marked places waiting to be filled. And as I walked beneath the glow of street lamps, I realized that in that unplanned walk, I'd rediscovered the map to my own heart, one where every path, every unexpected turn, led me closer to home. The front door opens with a soft click that echoes like a question mark in the empty hallway. I drop the umbrella by the shoe rack and step inside, pausing to let my eyes adjust to the low lamplight. Everything is still, no laughter, no footsteps, no voices. The hum of the refrigerator is the only living thing in the silence. I peel off my damp coat and hang it on the hook by the door, relishing the brief sensation of warmth creeping up my spine. I step into the living room. The birthday banner I'd draped over the mantel is half fallen, its bright letters slipping sideways. Streamers dangle limply from the ceiling fan, and a deflated balloon nestles in the corner like a forgotten pet. I walk toward the kitchen, where the counters are spotless and the coffee pot sits empty, no crumbs of cake, no traces of celebration. On the fridge door, a small note in Cassandra's familiar handwriting reads, "Running late, back tomorrow. Love, Cass." I stand there for a long moment, the flickering bulb overhead casting the note's shadow against the white door. Love, Cass. Two words that feel like a lifeline tossed from a distant shore. But they don't answer the question of why. Why leave at 6 without mentioning a delay? Why treat my 42nd birthday like any other day? My stomach tightens, and I realize hunger has crept in alongside disappointment. I head to the pantry and find the last granola bar, oats and honey, the kind I bought when we still went on morning hikes together. I unwrap it slowly and take a bite, savoring the crisp clusters even as I brace for the familiar taste of solitude. Each chew feels amplified in the hush. I swallow and run a hand through my hair, exhaling in a way that sends a small tremor through my shoulders. I wander back into the living room and sink onto the couch, glancing at the photograph on the end table. It's from last summer. A snapshot of Grace mid-laugh, hair in a messy braid, and Tyler grinning beside her with arms around her shoulders. Their smiles are wide and unself-conscious, the kind that make your chest ache in both longing and pride. Below the photo sits Serena's invitation card, peeking out from my wallet like a bookmark. I pull it out and turn it over in my hand. The embossed leaf and compass rose glint faintly in the lamplight, a reminder of unexpected kindness and new directions. I set the card on the coffee table and curl my legs beneath me. The mansion of memories feels cold tonight, its rooms cavernous without my family's voices. I pick up the remote and switch on the television, static. I switch again. A late-night talk show, laughter canned and rehearsed. The host's voice booms about celebrity gossip. I switch it off. No script can fill this emptiness. I rise and walk to the bookshelf, sliding my finger along the spines until I find the worn copy of A Walk in the Woods I'd started reading months ago. Page 38. I see in the margin where I'd scribbled, Summer 2024. I pull it free and flip through, but the words blur. My mind drifts back to the garden path behind the restaurant, the way the moss felt under my hands, the hush of leaves overhead. I imagine Serena there, sketching invisible leaves in the air, reimagining the city. In the kitchen, I fill a glass with water and carry it back to the couch. I sit again, this time facing the sliding glass door that looks onto the backyard. The rain has stopped, and a single lantern by the fence flickers in a puddle's reflection. The world beyond that glass seems close and distant all at once, an untended garden waiting for care. I lift my glass and take a long drink, the chill water sliding down my throat like promise. Then, as if the silence finally finds its voice, my phone buzzes. I retrieve it and see an incoming message from Grace. My heart thumps. I tap the screen. Grace, Dad? You okay? We're really sorry. We messed up. Love you. My breath catches, and for a moment I just stare at the words. Sorry. Love you. Two messages that feel loaded with possibility. I type a reply. Me. I'm here. Let's talk in the morning. Love you too. I set the phone beside me and lean my head back against the cushion. The silence still fills the room, but now it's gentler, like the space before dawn. I close my eyes, letting my mind replay the message until the initial shock softens into something warm. Hours pass as I sit in shadows. The moon slides across the window's pane, casting lace-like patterns on the rug. I consider unfolding the banners, tossing the ribbons, clearing the stage. But I stop. Instead, I reach for Serena's card again, tracing the embossed crest. I imagine writing a note of my own. Thank you. The idea makes me smile, not just because it feels polite, but because it means I'm capable of remembering kindness even when my own family falters. I tuck the card into my pajama pocket and switch off the lamp. I lie down on the couch, blanket pulled up to my chin, and let exhaustion settle in. My phone rests on my chest, its screen softly illuminated by the word grace, waiting for my reply if I choose. I don't reach for it. Not yet. Instead, I close my eyes and breathe in sync with the night. Inhale, silence, exhale, possibility. Tomorrow, I will wake to a family willing to repair the gap. Tomorrow, I will remember what it feels like to be seen. And tonight, in the hush of an empty house, I will rest, knowing that silence can heal as much as it reveals, and that the bright spots of kindness, whether from a stranger or my own children, guide us toward mornings worth celebrating. I wake to sunlight slipping through the curtains like a silent apology. My phone buzzes on the nightstand, 2 new messages from Cassandra and 1 from Tyler. I sit up, heart pounding with anticipation, and read them one by one. Cassandra's first message reads, "I'm sorry, Marcus. Can we talk breakfast? I mean it." The second follows a moment later, and I've emailed work to let me leave early today. Tyler's message is simpler. "Dad, sorry. Can I see you before practice?" Grace hasn't texted yet, but I feel her presence in the space around me, as though she's waiting just outside my door. I swing my legs over the side of the bed and slip my feet into slippers. The quiet of the house feels different now, less hollow, more hopeful. I pad down the hall to the kitchen, where the countertops still carry traces of last night's note, and the invitation card rests beside the coffee maker, as if it's keeping watch. I clear my throat, lean forward, and pick up the small embossed card, turning it over while I wait for the kettle to boil. Serena's gesture seems both distant and tethered to this morning's promise, a chance to build rather than just maintain. The coffee machine hums to life, and I pour 2 mugs, one for me, one for Cassandra. I carry them to the small breakfast table in the corner, where a single chair faces mine. The banners and streamers still hang, battered from last night, but I decide to leave them there for now, as witness to what happened and to what is to come. A few moments later, I hear footsteps crossing the tile, then a soft knock on the open door. Cassandra enters, wearing a worn gray sweatshirt and loose ponytail, her eyes red at the corners. She pauses when she sees the coffee mug waiting for her, and for an instant I feel the weight of unspoken things between us. Months of drifting, evenings spent apart even when we occupied the same room. "Thank you," she says quietly, accepting the mug. The heat radiates between us like a small bridge. She settles into the chair across from me, fingers wrapped around her cup. I sit and offer a tentative smile. "I'm glad you're here," I say. She nods, looking down at the table. "I should have called last night," she begins, voice low. "I was late at work, then I got caught up helping Grace with her history project, then Tyler needed help with that finance form. By the time I looked up, it was 8:30. I finished gently. She meets my eyes, and guilt shadows her face. "I know. I should have sent a text. I'm sorry." She takes a breath and reaches across the table, brushing her hand against mine. The contact is tentative, like a fragile truce. I forgot the simple things while trying to juggle everything else. I swallow around the coffee, warmth easing my throat. "I know you did." I trace the rim of my mug with a fingertip. "I've been guilty of the same. I've been late to your appointments, missed Grace's games, prioritized work over dinner." I pause, letting each word land. "I'm sorry too." Tears blur the edge of her vision. "I missed the point of a birthday. I was so busy building the life we wanted, jobs, college funds, renovations, that I forgot to celebrate you." She squeezes my hand. "You deserve better." My chest tightens with emotion. I imagine the chairs in that midtown restaurant, the empty plates, the silence that suffocated me. And I think of Serena, and how a simple act of kindness unlocked this moment. "You're here now," I say softly. "That's what matters." We sit in companionable silence, sipping our coffee. Outside, the sky brightens as the sun mounts its arc, promising a new day. I break the quiet. "I talked to the kids this morning. They're sorry too." Cassandra nods, wiping at her cheeks. "I saw." She glances at her phone on the table. "Grace wants to know if we can go to the park after school. Tyler asked if we could have a family dinner, and none of it at work." I smile, imagining Grace's basketball game and Tyler's college applications laid out on the kitchen table. "Let's make it happen." She takes another sip, then exhales. "I also want to talk about us. Not just apologies, but what comes next." I don't want to keep repeating this cycle. My heart lifts. Me neither. I fold my hands on the table, meeting her gaze. "Let's make a plan, even if it's small. Like Friday date nights, or Saturday breakfasts, or Sunday park visits. You and me and the kids." Her lips curve into a genuine smile, the kind that reaches her eyes. "I like that." We lean across the table and clasp both hands, sharing the warmth of coffee and commitment. In that moment, I feel the cracks of our marriage begin to mend, not with grand gestures, but with honest conversation and intentional choices. Later, after we've cleared the mugs and set the table straight, I step into the living room to find Grace curled on the couch with her phone and Tyler standing by the window, backpack slung over one shoulder. "We're going to the park?" Grace asks, voice bright. Tyler nods toward the breakfast table. "Dad, you game for pancakes before we go?" I grin and scoop them both into quick hugs. "Definitely." Cassandra joins us, draping an arm around my shoulders. "Family breakfast, then park," she announces. The kids cheer, and I feel a surge of possibility. In that simple morning ritual, coffee, conversation, and clear plans, I recognize the seeds of something new. The empty chairs at dinner last night taught me more than absence. They showed me how much presence matters. And now, as laughter fills the house and the scent of sizzling pancakes drifts from the kitchen, I realize we're rebuilding not just a marriage or a family routine, but the very foundation of what it means to truly see and honor one another. Today, we will celebrate together. And tomorrow, and the day after, until the lessons of last night become the traditions of our future. A year has passed since the rain tapped against that midtown restaurant window, and I found myself alone in 3 empty chairs. Today, I return to the same spot, but everything is different. It is my 43rd birthday, and this time I arrive at 7 o'clock sharp, umbrella folded in my hand, heart buoyant instead of heavy. The hostess greets me by name and leads me past the tables to the one I reserved weeks ago. "Table for 6, she says, though I booked it for 5 plus 1. I love the way the lanterns cast a warm glow on the purple walls, how the faint scent of cedar and citrus lingers in the air as though someone planted it deliberately. My new traditions have been careful choices, cutting work early, keeping Fridays free, and learning that surprises are better when you help plan them. I take a breath and slide into the seat at the head of the table, smoothing the linen napkin into my lap. 5 place settings gleam before me. In the second seat sits my wife Cassandra. She wears a deep green dress, the color of the magnolia leaves in our garden, and her hair is loose around her shoulders. She smiles at me with the familiarity of shared mornings and the promise of shared evenings. Next to her is our daughter Grace, wearing a jean jacket over a blush pink blouse, ready to order sea bass. Her sophisticated choice, she told me on the phone this morning. Beside Grace sits Serena, carrying a small potted maple tree in a white ceramic pot. The card on the table matches the one she gave me, gold-trimmed invitation to this very restaurant's holiday party. She winks at me, and I realize she's the +1 who taught me what it means to be seen. On the other side of the table, in the 4th seat, is our son Tyler, dressed in a button-down shirt and his college acceptance letter folded neatly in his pocket. He's grown taller in a year. Something I noticed the morning he beat me in a game of horse at the park. In the final seat is Lila, the hostess, whose kindness stayed with me long after that first lonely night. She accepted my invitation to join us as a token of gratitude for coffee, for soup, for her compassion when I felt most invisible. Cassandra reaches over and takes my hand. "Happy birthday," she says softly. "Thank you for reminding us what matters." I squeeze her fingers. "Thank you for being here." The waiter arrives with 2 glasses of sparkling water and lime. Serena had given up alcohol last year for health, she reminded me. So sparkling water it is. He sets the glasses before me and pours, his expression respectful of the occasion. I lift mine. To new traditions, I say. My voice carries across the table, drawing 5 nods and smiles. I clink glasses with Cassandra, then Grace, then Serena, then Tyler, then Lila. To new traditions, they echo. We each take a sip of the water. The bubbles tickling our lips, a promise of life's effervescence. The light from the lanterns glimmers in Serena's eyes, matching the glow of the tiny maple leaves on the plant she holds. It is a gift from my desk at home, she explains, a living reminder that growth takes time, that even a small sapling can become a mighty tree under the right care. Grace leans forward. I chose sea base because it's grown in the ocean, like trees grow in the earth, she says with a shy grin. I think it's poetic. Tyler chuckles. Only you would think fish and trees are poetic. I went with the slow roast lamb. Feels like a celebration meal. Lila smiles. I'll have the autumn harvest soup. It's the first thing Marcus ever ordered. Cassandra folds her hands. And I want the wild mushroom consommé. To honor that first night full of soup and cold coffee. We place our orders, each one weaving a thread through the tapestry of our shared story. The waiter leaves, and the table hums with conversation. Grace's stories of school projects, Serena's tales of designing a new park bench, Tyler's plans for his freshman year. Cassandra's laughter at my mock-serious pronouncement that I might sleep at the office if my family stood me up again. Between bites of bread and sips of water, I feel a warmth I never imagined possible. The gaps that once yawned between us have been filled with attention, intention, and the willingness to be present. This table, once a stage for abandonment, is now an altar of connection. 5 faces beam at me, my family, my friend's friend who became my guide, each one proof that belonging is built, not given. As the soup arrives in its deep bowls, steam curling like a gentle invitation, I taste gratitude. The consommé is rich and balanced, each spoonful a testament to second chances. I look around the table and catch Serena's eye. She nods, a smile playing at her lips. A toast without words, an acknowledgement that some gifts change your course forever. After soup comes lamb, fish, and a side of truffle fries. Grace's idea, to mix things up. We pass dishes around, sharing flavors and laughter. Lila tells a story about the restaurant's ghost chef, a playful legend that prompts everyone to lean in with wide-eyed curiosity. Tyler punctuates the tale with dramatic gestures, making us all laugh until our sides ache. Cassandra reaches across and squeezes my hand again. I used to think surprises were party poppers and confetti. Now I know their moments. Waiting, walking, strangers' kindness, family's return. I nod. This is the best surprise I've ever had. Cassandra tilts her head. Then let's make sure there are many more. I smile, looking at the chairs around the table. Each one holds someone who chose to be here, whose presence fills a space that emptiness can no longer touch. The staff clears our plates gently, then brings a small cake, candles flickering in the center. The kitchen staff gathers just out of sight to sing happy birthday, their voices warm and unhurried. We share the cake, fork by fork, passing slices around the circle. Strawberry filling, light sponge, with cream that tastes of fresh mornings. I lean back and close my eyes at the first bite, letting the sweetness settle in. When the last crumb disappears, we sit in a comfortable silence, savoring the moment before the world calls us back to its rush. The lanterns glow, the rain begins again outside. This time, a soft patter rather than a downpour. Cassandra rests her head on my shoulder. Grace leans against. Serena. Tyler and Lila trade stories about their favorite park spots. I inhale the mingled scents of soup, lamb, cake, and companionship. I realize that sometimes the most profound surprises aren't surprises at all, but the discovery that people will come when you plan wisely, love deeply, and choose to be seen. As the evening winds down, I slip the tiny maple onto the windowsill, where its slender branches catch the lantern light. I know it will need careful watering, gentle pruning, and time to mature, just like the relationships it commemorates. I turn back to the table and raise my glass one final time. Thank you, I say, voice steady with emotion, for being here tonight and every day. They raise their glasses to meet mine in a quiet chorus. To you, they say, and then, together, to us.